Greetings. Today is Saturday, November 5th, 2016. It's a few days away from the general election, and it's already kind of heating up with a lot of things that are being revealed, particularly about the Clinton Foundation and with WikiLeaks divulging more about the emails that were hacked. Now, I want to move a little bit forward and discuss with you, future generations, what I think is going to happen. Again, I don't know. I'm just kind of reasoning these things out. I do believe that Donald Trump will have a overwhelming victory. I don't see much controversy coming out of the election. I think it'll be pretty black and white that he'll be the next president of the United States. I also think that sometime either now or before he gets inaugurated, there's going to be some huge economic chaotic event that's going to shock the stock market. Now, as of right now, they say that the stock market is kind of spooked for a Donald Trump presidency. And that might not be a bad thing, actually. But the reason why I say that we're looking for an economic decline like we haven't seen before, and that it has to happen, or I think it has to happen sometime before he's inaugurated, is because I base it off the premise that Barack Obama was somebody who, I don't know how to describe him, but an agent of evil somehow, or working for evil, and maybe he doesn't realize it, that was set to become president in order to set things, a pathway towards chaos in the United States. And if you look at what he's doing, that's exactly what he's doing. They say that we were an economic disaster in 2008, but nothing's really changed since then. That was 8 years ago. So how they can credit him for saying that he helped the economy recover, I think that's actually misguided. I think the economy was already kind of resilient, and it was eventually going to kind of rebound a little bit, but it didn't rebound much. People are still unemployed, and many of them are not being counted for because it's being claimed that they're not looking for work, so how can they be considered unemployed? But the numbers not in the labor force are almost in the 100 millions, and that's a lot for this country. Now, I believe that everything that Barack Obama that he has done has been by design. You see, you have to ask yourself, when someone makes a decision and it goes against the grain of common sense, there are two possibilities for that. Either that individual is completely ignorant, or he knows what he's doing, and he's doing everything by design. You see, I do believe that kind of God speaks to us in various ways, through nature, through other people, through different signs, and it's just kind of maybe a fun way of speaking to us. And those who are able to discern and see can put it together. And I don't think we're going to expect a God to speak to us like, a normal human being would speak to another. But there was something kind of prophetic in a way through a movie that was a pretty good movie. If you were into sci-fi and fantasy and that kind of stuff. And it was done through Chris Nolan's Batman, particularly the second installment, where Heath Ledger plays the Joker. Now, what I find interesting through that whole movie was the Joker character and some of the quotes that were said in it that kind of describes the Joker and what I think describes Barack Obama. Now, back then, when the movie first came out, some artist, cleverly created an Obama Joker mask. And maybe at that time, that artist didn't really understand what he was doing. But when I saw it, it made sense to me as time went on that Barack Obama, in a way, is like that Joker. Yes, he's wearing a mask, but if you look deep inside the Joker's mentality, it is best explained through Michael Caine, the butler in the movie, Alfred. And he says to Master Wayne, as they're trying to understand this Joker character, and Michael Caine says to Bruce Wayne, says some people are in it for the money. Some people just want to watch the world burn. Now think about that for a second. Isn't that kind of what the devil is, in a way? He's not in it for the money. He just wants to watch the world burn. So when I saw the Obama Joker mask, and then later hearing that quote from Michael Caine, it kind of made sense to me. It was kind of prophetic in a way. And so then I look at President Obama and the things that he's done, and he's disguised his intentions, of course, with good words. Of course, that's what they always do. They never say what they really intend to do. They use words that sound endearing, that sound righteous. That's how they speak, to cover up their true intentions. So we were in the midst of an economic decline in 2008. Some call it the great economic disaster since the Great Depression. It was something very dramatic, no doubt. And so what did Barack Obama do rather than try to focus on fixing the areas that caused the problem? Well, he went into what they call the Affordable Care Act. Why? So on top of our economic chaos, which basically involves money, we're going to throw more money into a program of bureaucracy in the trillions on top of that. And then the way it's set up, even as Bill Clinton, the former Democrat president, said that this doesn't make any sense, the way they set up the system would eventually lead for it to create hardship for people. When you force people into having to cover other people's pre-existing conditions, naturally what would happen? Yes, it sounds good on the surface, but eventually that's going to cause increase in the premiums. So Barack Obama had to have known all that. So I believe everything was by intention, was to employ a system that would eventually kind of self-destruct for the sole purpose of something further, and that is perhaps more control. But I don't think it was so much more control as it was to try to create so much chaos. He had to work with as much as he could in such little time that he has left. Because I believe he knew that his time was only limited, and he had to try to create so much chaos through various means. One of them is through economics. One of them is through dividing the people subtly, you know. So a lot of people bought off into this concept that Barack Obama had laid out. Now people are suffering through the so-called Affordable Care Act. You have to understand it was nicknamed Obamacare. And then a lot of the Democrats try to say, don't call it Obamacare, call it the Affordable Care Act, because, you know, that sounds better. It sounds that you're trying to make it affordable. But to their dismay, actually, it's been counterproductive, because what people are seeing, hearing, and then seeing in their own wallets is totally different. When they're told it's an Affordable Care Act, it's almost mocking the people, because they're seeing that more and more money has to be spent out of their own wallets than what they were previously paying before. So it's actually worked against the Democrats. And this is how Democrats often play. They kind of use words and euphemisms to hide the reality. So I believe that Barack Obama had the sole intention of creating a lot of chaos in many different facets of the American life, through different channels and through the U.S. government, through different policies. Immigration is another one. He disguised this whole immigration policy as humanitarian, but is it really? Or was it just to create a lot of friction within this country's own borders, and then letting people without even vetting them? So we don't know if they have bad intentions or not. In nature, we often learn that there's balance. Our human body has balance, right? You intake too much something, your body lets you know somehow, right? We're told we can't take too much salt or too much of that because we need balance. Well, when you allow too many people uncontrollably, you're creating an imbalance. So it goes against nature in a way. But his intention wasn't humanitarian. It was about creating friction with the American people, to have people turn against people, because he knew it would create friction. It's no different if you were head of a household and you had 5 people in your family, a wife and 3 kids, and you worked to take care of them, and then the government told you, you know what, you're going to take care of 10 more people within your borders, basically within your home. That creates friction among you. Of course, naturally, the more people within a room living together creates friction. And that's what he intended, was to create that kind of friction, that kind of chaos, to turn and pitch people against people. Now, one could disguise that, well, we're not being humanitarian. Well, no. The way you have to think about this is that those countries where those refugees are coming from, they don't care about their own people. They find no sense of shame that their people have to flee their country. That if you were a leader of that nation, you have to ask yourself, would you feel a sense of shame or dishonor if your own children, your own people, had to flee your country because they couldn't find work? You know as well as I do that the people at the top of the leadership and government only care for themselves, only care for the people that support them, only care for the rich that can support them. They turn a blind eye on their own poor people. And so what you have created is a deadbeat dad. There's nothing humanitarian about that. And that is what is happening right now to those who are coming from Mexico. And it's sad that even Hispanics don't even see it. That their own father, their own country, the father of Mexico, deserts his own children, tells them, hey, I can't feed you, so go to the neighbor up north. You tell me a Hispanic father that would tell that to his own children. He would rather kill himself before he tells them that. But that's the way the Democrats want. They lure you through political power. And so there's chaos in every direction, and that's what he wants. In every direction. Whether it's through government, healthcare, through immigration, through the people and the communities. He wants to divide the country. So, a Donald Trump victory, you have to ask yourself, because there's a lot of people in the Christian sect that are declaring that there's the Trump prophecy. And I don't think they kind of understand exactly the bigger picture. See, they profess that Donald Trump is God's anointed one and that it's going to bring prosperity to America. I do believe that Donald Trump is anointed by the Heavenly Father because he needs the right people at the right time for what's about to come down. But think about this for a second, folks. If Trump becomes president and succeeds for the next 8 years, how will America know that God's footprint, God's hands, how will he make himself known? See, I don't believe that the next 8 years are just going to go smoothly. Donald Trump's going to be a successful president like Ronald Reagan was. And then what? We forget about God's presence? We are, right now, if you look at the world, in a moral chaos. We are in a moral chaos within the family, within the community, in each country. We are in a global chaos morally. So God obviously sees all this and says, you know what, I got to make it known that I exist. And when I make myself known that I exist, you people down here on earth have to make a choice on what you want to follow, good or evil. So you see, something's got to happen. Something's got to happen that is big. Something supernatural. Something that's going to come down and make people realize, oh my God, there is a God. What is happening? And it's nothing that anybody can explain. It's nothing that science can be able to explain. So there has to be some kind of chaotic moment, a culmination period, time, where the war between good and evil comes to a final point. See, these people who want to prophesize about Donald Trump are not seeing what the big picture is. They think we're in somewhat the end of times period, right? But I say that we've been in it for almost 100 years already. And that's why men can never guess, because we've already been in it. We've already been in it since 1917. And I said that in the first recording. See, this war that's being waged is a war between good and evil, a spiritual war of souls. And there's a reason for that. But as I'll explain later, why that reason is, what we're in the midst right now, we've been in this spiritual war. And no other time in the history has things have reached such a moral abyss. And it's coming to a breaking point. It's a war for souls. So as you see, there's something that's going to have to happen to shake things up a bit. For you future generations that are listening, at this time, what's being put out on the media is that there have been reports of exorcisms and possessions at an all-time high. You hear more of it now than you ever did. And I believe there's a reason for that, because the devil knows his time is coming up. And he's got to do whatever he can to create so much chaos that people will turn against each other. And demons are manifesting themselves. And that's why you hear about more exorcisms. The pressure cooker is getting more and more and more and more pressure added to it. And I believe it's going to get even worse. It's not going to matter whether Donald Trump is president or not. He's just there because he's an important player for things to come. Now, the reason why I say something between now and when he gets inaugurated has to happen, a chaotic event, whether it's through the economy or something, is to show that this current President Barack Obama, takes ownership of whatever collapse. You see, the day that Donald Trump becomes president, if the economy goes down, then Barack Obama can say, see, well, everything was good under my watch. Well, no. That's what a lot of his supporters say, that he had staved off an economic depression, and he takes credit for that. Okay? Well, he had 8 years. And so something, in my opinion, and reasoning this thing out, assuming that there's a God and he wants this man to take ownership of what he created, to show the people the fools that they were in believing in this man, for not questioning this man. See, the people have to learn. They have to have consequence. And God has to make sure they feel that consequence. So the pressure cooker is going to explode. And we're going to be in a huge economic upheaval of which I cannot really imagine or explain. But it has to be under his watch. Because that way he cannot point the finger at anybody else other than himself. Not that he would care, but what's important is that the people know that he is responsible. So I believe sometime before Donald Trump is inaugurated that we will see this economic depression, whatever you want to call it. Now, granted, I also believe that there are forces of evil who wanted to sabotage a Trump presidency, but that will backfire because everything that they wanted to do to create an economic depression in the United States post Donald Trump presidency, it won't happen at the time that they want. It's going to happen before he becomes president. And President Barack Obama will have to face the people. And then that's where I think you're going to start seeing things that are very strange and bizarre. Something that we've never seen before, trying to be attempted. Because Barack Obama is going to see that people are rejecting him and his ideas and his policies. And he's going to get more and more angry. Now, I don't know if he's the Antichrist. I truly don't know. I just believe that he is an agent working for the evil one. I don't know if he's all man or not. I truly don't. But the ultimate big picture is that there's going to be this huge final culmination point, this spiritual war that we've been into. And there's a lot of people who've, in a way, sold their soul. And the evil one knows that. You see, when you voted for an agent of evil, not once but twice, and you find out that you've been played, that he was an agent of evil this whole time, how does that going to make you feel? It's going to make you feel like you sold your soul. And to a lot of these self-righteous people on the left, they cannot imagine or fathom the idea that they have been wrong. They cannot imagine that they've been played. It's always the other people. You see, that's how they think, that they know better, that they're truly the elitists. And so they're going to have to make a choice. And the devil knows that. That the choice is either you face the fact that you gave yourself to me, or you double down on it. Or you double down on it and you join me. Like I told you in the second recording about the left, they do things out of spite. And when they realize they've given their soul, and I say that in quotes because they really didn't give their soul. That's what the devil wants them to think. Many of them will join him out of spite. See, that's how liberals are. They're like that scorpion who's on the frog's back. When they're halfway through the other side, the scorpion stung the frog and they both drowned, because that was his nature. And that's the same with liberals. It's their nature. It's their nature to cheat. It's their nature to lie. It's their nature to be corrupt, to justify corruption. It's not so much liberals, that's perhaps more of a generalization, but those who embrace idealism, which tend to be liberals in general. But idealistic people who do not get their way and then proven wrong do things out of spite. Because they don't want to be known as doing something wrong. So what to do is they'll tear the whole house down no matter what. So the devil understands that. He knows that half this country gave themselves to him. And it's going to be dependent on the other half, the rest of us, who saw this, to help our brothers on the other side. Because the Lord knows that, no, these souls still have a chance. They still have a chance. But see, the devil is brilliant too. Okay? He's brilliant too. He knows how to play people and manipulate people. So that was one of his tactics, was to get people to give themselves to him. And when it's revealed that who he is, they're going to fold, they're going to tear themselves apart, knowing that they gave themselves willingly to him. Because these are the same people who thought they knew it all, who said they knew it all, but were wrong from day one. So whatever happens, the next phase in this end of an era period is going to be some kind of economic chaotic event to show that Barack Obama is responsible and that he takes ownership of this mess, and that people will attempt to reject him, and they'll get more and more angry, and then we're going to move into another phase of something which I don't really know. It's going to be scary times for many people in the world. The Catholics need to get ready, more so than ever. Those in the rest of the Christian world, I know that you're preparing yourselves as well. But the Catholics, many of them know what's about to happen. It's strange that you don't see too much attention being paid to it. That's the way I think it was intended by our Lord. So, in the next few days, we're going to have the election. I believe Donald Trump overwhelmingly will win. And then between sometime after the election and before his inauguration, we're going to have a huge economic, chaotic event of some kind of event that's going to create a great, great depression. And the whole purpose of that is to show that Barack Obama was a fraud and to hold him responsible to whatever happens under his watch, so he cannot escape that. But I think that will lead to the next phase in this great spiritual war. In the next recording, I have to talk to you about why I think 2017 is the year and why a lot of Catholics need to get ready. 2017 is an important year, but there's other things mathematically that are kind of pointing in this direction. This is a voice from the past speaking to you in the future. It is Saturday, November 5th, 2016. Signing off.